Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Susan Wilson with Informatica. I'm the Vice President of the Data Governance and Privacy segment, and we are partnering with the CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Cathy Doss, Chief Data Officer for the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. Cathy, welcome, and maybe you can do an introduction for our audience today.
Absolutely. I am as you said, the Chief Data Officer for the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. And my everyday job is making sure that my businesses have the data they need, that it's easy to find and ready to use.
Cloud modernization right now is a hot topic. It's almost like every company's got its own. It's like a fingerprint. It's unique in some ways. So there's some things that are common, but their approaches, their change management can be quite different, and their stakeholders, their business outcomes. How does cloud fit in your strategy and roadmap for the FRB?
So I think it's understanding why would you even do a cloud modernization, right? It's where's the business trying to get to that they're not at right now? And what would the business benefit be from going to the cloud? And so, is it about elimination of data centers, or is it about storage of big data? Or is it analytics, or maybe all of the above? But I think it was, for us, it's all about taking the time to understand what would the benefit be, and then make sure that we put a business case around that. And that business case has got to include the cost of replumbing, right? You're not going to pick up something that is on premise and drop it on the cloud, unless it's a static amount of data, which typically you don't always get a whole lot of value from just a static piece of data. You hope you're getting the next evolution of it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. But then there's also, if you're going to take something that is on premise and move to the cloud, you're going to need business engagement, right? You hopefully are going to do a step change as a part of that. And so, putting this business case that takes into account what are the benefits, but then what are the costs of doing it? Because it's not free to move. You're taking business people away from doing their day job. They're going to need to be involved and engaged as we make that move. And then measuring along the way, right? Holding yourself accountable to that business case. And are things going the way we thought? Are they more expensive, less expensive? What did we do right? And what did we do wrong? So I'm going to turn that whole data and analytics right back on us. As you think about the cloud, data and analytics is super important to make sure you're actually making the right trade-offs and that you truly are getting the benefits out of that shift.
You're so spot on. So many points on that. First, the things that come to mind, this is not a technology project. This is just as much a business change project. I can't tell you how many chief data officers come to me and say, I need some help. The IT team is running rampant with this cloud modernization, and they only are thinking about the tech and not the data. They're not thinking about the business change and outcomes. They think it's just a lift and shift, right? But in many cases, there's going to be some business process re-engineering, new data architecture, application architecture that will have an impact. And it's almost as if it's surprising in this day and age that we're still, as chief data officers, saying, hey, hang on a second, don't forget about the data. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, any best practices for designing, not only the architectures, but this strategy that provides the right technical capabilities to deliver on your desired organization's outcomes, again, centered around data, not just the tech, but just the adoption.
Well, and I think it's always about thinking about, can we create step change as you're making that move to the cloud? And I really do think that's where the benefit is. Many organizations have had their infrastructure as is, and it's like, oh, we're going to change that. Well, let's not do a status quo, right? Are there things that, we can do that will help benefit the business? I think the second thing, and it builds on what you just said, Susan, which is never build in hopes the business is going to come. It is so important to understand what the businesses need to do practical versus perfect, right? I mean, I grew up doing technology. I don't consider myself as much of a technology professional anymore as I do a data professional. But I do applaud a lot of the responsibilities that the technical folks have. And I really do think it's important to think about practical versus perfect. We would all love to have that perfect destination, that architecture, that everything. But unfortunately, that comes with a cost. And is the business going to benefit from that? And so as you think about architecting things, I always love the analogies. I love Legos, right? Which is, how do we know what it looks like, but then how do we incrementally build? Check to make sure it's working. It's that test and learn, and think it through of, engaging a customer, for example, and how can we pilot what we think we want to do in the long term? Did it work? What did we learn? What do we need to fix? And I think that is, once again, going to bring us all the way back to, this is all on behalf, whatever we're building, on behalf of the business, and making sure that what we're doing actually delivers on that.
You're right, Cathy. And there's only a certain amount of change that the business can digest while they're in the midst of running the business, right? Most of their businesses, it's not like you're building a startup from the ground up. You've got sustaining business and you've got this change, and these programs typically represent that. So your point is valid. It's the think big, start small, test and learn, like incubate and scale it, is critically important, because nobody's doing the big bang implementation. It's just, I'm hearing it across the board. We're taking it in bite-sized chunks that are valuable, meaningful, and learning on it too, and giving our time to test and maybe slightly change the direction if we find something. So critically important. Now, on that point, so as you start to think about that planning or work through that planning, how do you prioritize use cases and create that roadmap, right? We're thinking the long range, but we're building it up that communicates how these individual projects and work streams are related and build upon each other, like the Legos. I love the Legos theme.
Yeah, and I guess the bottom line comes down to, it's all about creating tangible value. And so if you can start off with a customer, and once again, hopefully you're networking across all of your business lines. In the position of CDO, I think that is a big piece of what I do, which is just trying to understand the businesses that I am trying to support. And as you think about creating that roadmap, do you have a customer that sort of exemplifies those Lego blocks that you've got to get done out there, that you can bring over, prioritize them first, and make it one where other people will see the benefit, right? Like if you pick the right one, other people can go, oh, well, I use HR data. So having an example around HR, I think a lot of people can relate to. If you pick up something that nobody can relate to, it's really hard to emit the tangible value. And once again, I'm not saying pick HR because of but if you can find a customer like HR or finance or someone who is universal to all your businesses, and leverage those Lego blocks that you're putting out there, I do think there's an opportunity, and one where people go, oh, well, I can use that little thing that you did up there too. And can I come next? And so a lot of times when you start to show that value, you get overwhelmed. I see you laughing. You get overwhelmed by people like, I want to be next. I want to be next. And so then you have that thought of, well, wait a minute, I thought I was going to put the blue blocks on next, but Susan's red blocks seem actually much more relevant at this point. And so I think it's also revisiting constantly that roadmap of what makes sense in the next progression step.
I love that. When I was at Pfizer, we had a heat map that we used to use. On the x-axis was the degree of effort, quick wins versus ones that do require a bit of investment, right? There's change management, quite a bit of change. Like even breaking it down would be, can't break it down into chunks that are as small as those quick wins. And the y-axis were things that, what's the relative importance to the business? So we always look for those things that we had, quick wins. It was a balanced portfolio, right? A balanced portfolio of quick wins. We also had some long range investments, and we, like you said, had that constant look at revisiting. And it's a great socializing mechanism for your enterprise, your organization, to say, this is what we're all going to bet on right now, but that could be subject to change based off of the market, based off of our company, but those quick wins or also long range were used to communicate to others about what we can do for your business. So I love that, because it's almost like the startup theme. You're like a business and you're looking for your customer testimonials, what value you delivered, and then you get more people coming on. So that heat map helps to keep us out of the range of things that are going to be heavy investment, but have a tactical value, right? Let's not touch those. Let's look at the things that are going to be transformational for our organization. So I love that story and the way that you go about that. Cathy, gosh, it's such a pleasure having you today. I want to thank you so much for your insights. Thank you. And for our audience today, please visit cdomagazine.tech for more of Cathy's interviews, as well as additional interviews from other CDOs as a part of this series. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me, Susan.
Thank you, Cathy.